Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Let's do it one at a time here. Okay, so remember last Friday, we had the little blocks, right? And you were building prisms. They told you how much to make the base. They told you how much to make the height. And what was our connection? Someone with a hand. What did we figure out about volume, Miles, when we were building? Right. If we multiplied all the dimensions together, that told us how many cubes were in our prism, right? So volume is where we take the length, multiply it by the width, right? And that's the area of our base. And we multiply that area of our base by the height, and that tells us the amount of 3D space that a solid figure occupies. So here's our formula. Length times width times height will give us volume of a rectangular prism. And we're only talking about rectangular prisms in this chapter. Okay? So volume is equal to length times width times height. Think about the fact that length times width is really just the area of a rectangle, right? So sometimes what you'll see in the book and in the homework is that they'll say the area of the base, which is length times width, times the height is also volume. Okay, and they'll use big B for the area of the base. So it's just another way to think about it. Length times width is the area of that flat base, and then we multiply it by the height to get a volume. Write a little note to ourselves. When multiplying fractions, we multiply so if we have a set of fractions, numerator over denominator. Oops, that should be D-E-N, denominator. You multiply straight across the top, so numerator times numerator over denominator times denominator. So let's do an example, okay? Let's say we've got 1/2 times 3/7. We multiply the numerator times the numerator. 1 times 3 is 3. 2 times 7 is 14. That is your answer. You must always simplify your fraction. Do not give it to me or do not give it to Big Ideas as a decimal. It will be wrong. Well, this is going to be a long decimal. It does not want that. Okay? If it's a simple decimal, perhaps. But please just do the multiplication of the fractions. Here we go. Let's do an example. Okay, here is our figure. Here is our figure. Go ahead and sketch this in your notes. Sketch a little prism and label it. All right, so we know that volume is length, if we call this our length, times width times height. So we're going to just be multiplying all of these together. 7/8 times 1/2 times 5/8. Okay, to multiply fractions, we multiply straight across the top. 7 times 1 times 5 is what? 35. And on the bottom, 8 times 2 times 8. Liam?
128.
128. Now, the last part of this will be making sure that you simplify if you can. Use your divisibility rules to help you figure out if and when you need to simplify. Okay, if they end in even numbers, they're divisible by 2. So are these divisible by 2? No. If the sum of the digits is divisible by 3, they're divisible by 3. So look at 35. 3 plus 5 is 8. Is that divisible by 3? No. Okay. 4, you can only have divisible by 4 if it's even. So we know that won't be divisible by 4. 5, they have to end in 5 or 0. Are they divisible by 5?
Nope.
Not both of them. One of them, but not both. Okay, to be divisible by 6, it has to be divisible by 2 and 3. And it's divisible by neither. So this is most likely simplest form. Okay? Right here. And we would also, of course, this would be inches, and we cube the units for volume because there are 3 dimensions: length, width, and height. Meters cubed, not inches. Meters cubed. Now we've got a cube. Okay? And every side, we've got our length, our width, and our height. So find the volume of this cube by doing length times width times height. We use our rules. 3 times 3 times 3 is what? Modibo?
27.
Very good. 27. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. 2 times 2 is 4. Times 2 is 8. 27 over 8. Skim through your divisibility rules. Is this in simplest form?
No. Yeah.
It is. You could change it to 3 3/8. That would be fine.
That's basically the same thing.
To find a missing dimension, start with your formula. Okay, volume equals length times width times height. Start with that. Then plug in the dimensions you know. So maybe you know the volume and the length and the width, and you have to solve for the height. So plug in the values that you know, the dimensions you know. And then we're going to use our equation rules, which is why we did that little chapter on equations and solving equations to solve, or in other words, to solve or to isolate the variable. So get the variable that we're looking for by itself. And that will be your missing dimension. All right, we've got the computer tower. And we are trying to find the height of that tower. We know the volume, we know the length, and we know the width. So here's what we're going to do. Start with our formula. Volume equals length times width times height. Now we know the volume. We know the length. We know the width. We're going to solve for the height. So here's what we do. Into our formula, plug in what we know. We know volume, right? 1792. We know the length, 7. We know the width, 16. We do not know the height, so that's going to stay as our variable in the equation. Yes?
Would you times 7 times 16 and then divide it by
Yes. So start by multiplying. What is 7 times 16? Liam?
It's 112.
Okay. Okay, so first start by simplifying. Multiply 7 times 16, which gives us 112, times h. And then just bring your volume down. So we get 1792 equals 112 times h. Now, this goes back to our rules of equations. We want to get h by itself. We're trying to solve for h. We need to do the inverse operation of what we were doing, which was multiplication. So what should we do, Liam?
You put the H over the, no, so.
Sam, what should we do?
I'm like, do 1792 divided by 112.
Yes. Okay, this is 112 times h. The opposite of multiplication would be to divide by 112. Sorry, that one looks kind of weird. Right? If we divide by 112, we get h by itself. Remember this? So if we do divide by 112 on one side, we must divide by 112 on the other side. So what is h? What is our height of this computer tower? What is the height? 16, thank you. 16, and it is inches. 1792 divided by 112 gives us 16. The height is 16. You can check if you're right by doing 16 times 7 times 16, and you should get 1792. Back to your original volume. Find the length of this little box. You know the volume. You know the height, and you know the width. I want to see you writing. I want to see you writing because you should start with your formula. All right, so plug in what we know. We know volume is 72. We don't know the length. Width is 6. Height is 2. Okay, then we get 72, is equal to L times 12. Okay, in order to solve, we need to do the inverse operation of multiplication. So instead of multiplying by 12, we will divide by 12 to get that L by itself. If we do it on one side, got to do it on the other side. So our L is 6 inches. Okay, height. Okay, to convert units, first convert each dimension. So convert the length, the width, and the height, and then multiply last. Let's do an example. Here we go. We got a truck shown. The truck there delivers dirt for $18.
That's cheap.
Notice the issue here. Yep. Per cubic yard, but these dimensions are in feet. Okay? So that's going to cause us a little bit of work. Okay? What do we know about how feet and yards are related? Sam? Okay, so what specifically? There are 3 feet in 1 yard. Okay? So 8 feet, if we want to get to yards, we would divide by 3. Right? No, because if there's 3 feet in 1 yard, there's going to be fewer feet per yard, right? Because feet are smaller than yards. Yeah, so we would divide by 3. So this becomes 8/3. Can you guys see that, or is it too dark? It's a little bit dark. Let me try to do it. Maybe in like red. Okay. So if we divide 8 by 3, we get 8/3, and we can just leave it as a fraction, right? 8/3 is fine. This would become 17/3. And then 4 3/4, we are going to need to do a little bit more work here. Let's change this into an improper fraction. 4 times 4 is 16, plus 3 is 19. Oh, sorry. Don't. Okay, 19 over 4, and then we need to divide that by 3. So copy dot flop.
I feel like this lesson's like a bunch of combined.
It sure is. Okay, so divided by 3. I'm going to do that first. Then we're going to do copy dot flop. So what is our final dimension? We get 19 over 4 times 3. 12. Copy dot flop. Yes, and you're right. It is a whole bunch of lessons that are all kind of combining into one. Yeah, right. It's a lot of things that are coming back that you have to recall. All right, so now we've changed our dimensions. We've got length, width, and height. Now what do we got to do with it? Let's see what they ask. How much does a full truck of dirt cost? Well, first then we need to figure out the volume. So what is the total volume in cubic yards? We're going to do our length times our width times our height. So that's going to give us the volume in cubic yards. What's 8 times 19 times 17?
Wow.
Well, everyone got up and got a calculator. A lot of people did. So those of you who got up and got a calculator, please do this. Don't get up and get one. Modibo.
2,584.
Okay. Over, what's 3 times 12 times 3? Liam. 108. All right. All right. So this is the total number of cubic yards. I don't think this is in simplest form. Does it simplify? If you do 2584 divided by 108, is it a whole number? It is. What is it?
It's 612, and then 54 is below it, but that's non-simplest form, so you have to go again, and that's 306.
By 2.
So let's simplify this fraction. They're definitely divisible by 2. Are they divisible by 4 or 8? Like, I feel like there's bigger numbers.
Because
Okay, let's divide them both by 4. What do you get? 646. Oops. And then what's on the bottom? What's 108 divided by 4?
Divide by 2.
it's 27.
27. That seems about right. Okay, these aren't going to, 6, 6 is 12, 14, those one. Okay, so I think that's pretty simple. Now, it says it costs $18 per cubic yard. So if we have that many cubic yards, 646 over 27, what do we need to multiply by that by to get a dollar amount? 18. Because we're taking this, and they're charging us $18 per cubic yard. Now this one, because we are talking about money, it is okay to put these into decimal form because money is done in decimals. What's 646 over 27 as a decimal? What's 646 over 27 as a decimal?
Calculate.
Mia?
It's going to be 6.46.
No, what's 646 divided by 27, you guys? No. Thank you. Okay, 646 divided by 27. If we get this into a decimal, 23.926-ish. And we're multiplying that by 18. Okay, so total, that tells us that we had 23.926 cubic yards, and it's $18 per cubic yard. So we multiply by 18, we get 430.6 repeating. So if we were going to round this, if you were doing this for your homework, you would need to read where they ask you to round. Okay? If they say to the nearest dollar, we look here to the right. We round up 1 because that's bigger than 5. So about $431.